Would you say that the president, that is any president, takes a risk with national security and national prestige when he undertakes a goodwill trip abroad or a trip of personal diplomacy to the summit? Senator Johnson?
Yes, I certainly would, especially under the circumstances under which this trip was taken and with the knowledge that we gained from the summit meeting.
Senator Dirksen?
Well, of course, the element of personal security is involved rather than national security. And in that connection, it's incumbent upon the country, the Secret Service, and the President always to be cautious and to make sure that all the spade work is done before he makes one of these journeys abroad.
But does either of you think that there is any general conclusion on the subject of personal diplomacy to be drawn from this experience?
Yes, I think that that has to be taken into consideration. And as you know, some of the wisest counselors in the Congress had deep reservations about the wisdom of this trip before it was made. However, the President, under our Constitution, conducts our foreign policy, and it was a decision for him, and he received the best advice he was available, and he made the decision.
Senator Dirksen?
Well, this question of personal diplomacy has been discussed before, and there have been a good many opinions expressed that perhaps we ought to get back to the formal, solemn diplomacy that has always been exercised through channels. I presume that question is going to be discussed more and more as we go along, and certainly will have some impact on thinking in the executive branch.
In the case of this particular trip, do you see any dangerous consequences in our prestige position in the Far East as a result of what's happened? Senator Johnson?
Well, I certainly don't think it's improved our position in the end. I think it is a very embarrassing situation. I think that we have suffered embarrassment and humiliation, and I don't think there's anyone that does not wish that it had not occurred. I think that most sober people, upon reflection, will realize that a small minority group dominated by the communist leadership have deliberately tried to bring about this embarrassment. And I trust that the people all over the world will realize that events like this are being directed from a central source, and that they're trying to let a minority dominate a majority.
Senator Dirksen?
Well, in Asia, of course, where face seems to count so much, and that's a term they use out there, there may have been some impairment of our prestige. I think, however, you've always got to determine the thing on balance. Would there have been a greater loss of prestige if the invitation had been issued, and then the President, for reasons unexplained, had declined the invitation, because it might be made to appear that he was afraid to come. So you've got to resolve that on balance, I think, as much as anything.
Thank you, Senator Johnson and Senator Dirksen.